Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. There was some great motor racing this past weekend, so once again let's look at the past weekend and discuss some of the key talking points. I have already covered Formula 1 and Formula E, so check out those videos, link in the description. But right now we are going to look at Formula 2 and 3 from Spa, the F1 Academy from Paul Ricard, Supercars and S5000 from Sydney, the return of the British touring cars at Croft, GB3 from Silverstone, and I may even have a quick glance at NASCAR once again. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, nearly 900 of you have, and let's jump into the video. Let's start with Formula 2. Spa has had a controversial recent history and the weather this weekend was again poor. Josh Mason was making his debut replacing Brad Benavides at PHM, who of course have not scored any points so far in 2023, which was hardly surprising with Roy Nissany and Brad Benavides at the wheel. But Josh Mason was a strange choice. He has not raced in Formula 3 and is hardly a star of the junior categories. He struggled in the Toyota Racing Series and was hardly amazing in Euroformula a few weeks ago, despite taking one win at the Hungaroring. It's not that he is terrible, just there are other drivers with more experience who may have been better suited. Mason stalled on the grid before the formation lap and then bump started the car, which is against the rules. Not a bright start for the 21-year-old Englishman. Jehan Daruvula led the field away on a mostly dry track, but his luck is really bad, having walked under 1,000 ladders while spilling salt everywhere. His headrest came off. An unusual reason to retire, but it cost him a potential win. Amaury Cordeel also retired and brought out the safety car. Richard Verschoor was now leading and he and Enzo Fittipaldi pulled a gap to the cars behind. It was all very sensible from this point on. A few overtakes. Ayumu Iwasa made great progress through the field. Enzo Fittipaldi passed Verschoor on the penultimate lap to take his first Formula 2 win, long overdue. Verschoor was then disqualified just to finish his day off for good. The feature race had controversy before the race even began. Both Victor Martins and Frederic Vesti spun on the way to the grid, but whilst Martins survived, Vesti did not. A huge blow to his title hopes, especially as he was set to start on the front row. Dennis Hager and Ayumu Iwasa were other early casualties, and they brought out a safety car. Iwasa's title hopes also taking a big hit, so Théo Pourchaire gifted an opportunity to pull away. Somehow Dennis Hager did get going again, but had outside assistance to do so, so his weekend was pretty much done. Arthur Leclerc had a scary moment at Eau Rouge when a puncture sent him spinning. People seemed to have a lot of trouble leaving the pit lane. First Novalak slid over the white line, a certain penalty, and then Isaac Hadjar hit the wall and lost his front wing. Théo Pourchaire jumped Ollie Behrman in the pit stop, then passed Enzo Fittipaldi on track to take the lead. Juan Manuel Correa spun Crawford out of the race, leading to another safety car, which Jack Doohan pitted under and jumped up to second place on the soft tyre with not many laps left. Then just before the safety car was about to pop in, Josh Mason spun on a terrible debut weekend. Far too inexperienced, should not be there, but in fairness he did better in difficult conditions than I thought he would. And it was probably Roy Nissany's fault. Jack Doohan got the lead with just a couple of laps left on his fresher tyres. He was uncatchable for his second feature race win in a row. Théo Pourchaire took advantage of his rival's troubles and took the lead in the championship, but there is still a long way to go in this series. It is definitely not over yet. We round up action from Spa-Francorchamps with Formula 3. Gabriel Bortoleto could start the championship this weekend, but the sprint race was very damp. I may have mentioned it with Formula 3 before, but you tend to see the same names in strife. Sebastian Montoya and Rafael Villagomez were out on lap 1. I was waiting for Ido Cohen and Tommy Smith to join them shortly. So, early safety car and a restart for leader Caio Collet. It wasn't long before our next incident. Pepe Marti and Gabriel Mini collided and any hopes of Marti winning the championship were pretty much gone. Oh yeah, and Ido Cohen also got caught up in it. Not his fault, Marti pulled out in front of him. Not long after the second restart, Gabriel Bortoleto retired for the first time this season. In fact, the first time he hasn't scored points. A massive twist in the championship story. Bogdanovic caught him under braking, giving teammate O'Sullivan a big chance to close the gap in the title chase. Bortoleto's car at the side of the road brought out the safety car for the third time. Then it started raining. The race finished under safety car, leaving Caio Collet to win from Taylor Barnard and Paul Aaron. An eventful race and yet not much racing, mostly safety car. The feature race even started under the safety car. The weather could only be described as a bit slippy. Half the field were on slicks and the other half on wets, and the wet weather runners turned out to be the geniuses because they pulled a massive gap before a series of accidents brought out safety car number 5. Firstly, Michael Woo-hyun Shin spun and got himself stuck on the grass. Then Oliver Gover had a massive crash at Eau Rouge, and Roberto Faria crashed behind a safety car. Strangely, Paul Allen, who was nearly 20 seconds clear of the field before the safety car came out, pitted for slicks, as did a few other front runners, leaving just 6 cars on wets. After the race got going, the conditions did not improve and the wet runners got away again, with only sprint race winner Caio Collet catching a couple of them. Taylor Barnard took Genza's first win since Yuki Tsunoda won a race in 2019. There was also points for the first time for PHM and a female driver in Formula 3. Sophia Florsch held on to her wets for an impressive 7th place. She deserves it. She has been by far the best PHM driver in Formula 3, and it makes me wonder why she wasn't given the chance in Formula 2 instead of Josh Mason. Gabriel Bortoletto scored no points this weekend, but so strong is his lead, he only needs a point at Monza to take the title. Paul Aaron would have to score maximum points and hope Bortoletto scores nothing. So all eyes are on Prema versus Trident, which is very much up for grabs. An interesting weekend for Formula 3, but one that all but settled the championship for the next Brazilian superstar. F1 Academy was at Paul Ricard. This was the penultimate round of the F1 Academy Championship. Nerea Marti won her first race of the season ahead of Abby Pulling in a pretty simple race 1. Marta Garcia jumped Amna Alkabaisi after a safety car in race 2, leaving her rival to fight for her second place with Lina Bula. It was a fight she lost, and the title leader increased her advantage. The last race had a few scrappy moments. Bianca Bustamante had a few interesting moments this weekend. Marta Garcia took her second win of the weekend and her 6th of the year. 3 pretty dull races from Paul Ricard. For once, it was for the best, we only released the highlights. Marta Garcia has a big lead with 1 round left in Texas for the F1 support race. I made a video about how dull the BTCC has been of late, and someone commented I can't be an actual fan then. Presuming they haven't died from having their head stuck up their own arse, I'd like to tell them that you can love something and still accept it has flaws. The BTCC was back in action after a quick break, and Croft was the destination for the teams for round 6 of the championship. Napa Ford were 1-2-3, and it reminds me a lot of the year 2000 when Ford dominated with cars that were yellow and blue. Even Sam Osborne is scoring points for the team. That's just how good the focus is. Adam Morgan had a big moment all on his own and pretty much summed up race 1 for BMW, who didn't really look on the pace. Napa took all the podium places, with Sutton passing Rowbottom for second at the line. Aidan Moffat almost torpedoed the field at the start of race 2, miraculously missing everyone as he came across the track. Jake Hill spent 2/3 of the race trying to get past Josh Cook before spinning. Still not a great day for BMW. Ash Sutton took his 7th win of 2023 and we moved on to the reverse grid race. Dan Lloyd was the car sput out the crowd in race 3, hitting the barrier, and Ash Sutton ended up on the grass. He had damage. It keeps happening in race 3 for Sutton, yet another DNF. We got a first safety car of the weekend, so with Dan Lloyd, Ash Sutton, Adam Morgan all out, the race restarted. Darryl De Leon was doing amazingly well in the top 10, but was given a drive-through penalty because of a mechanic leaving the grid too late. A kick in the face of a decent debut weekend for the youngster. Jake Hill had another spin, whilst teammate Colin Turkington won the race. Ash Sutton still leads the championship, but Tom Ingram is just behind, despite only winning one race to Sutton's 7. Turkington, Hill and Camish are still in with a chance. This was a better weekend for the BTCC, in fact the best 3 races in 2023. It still wasn't anything amazing. The supercars from Sydney, the Erebus cars of Brana Kostecki led away in race 1. I do love a night race, but this was not a very exciting one. Same issue as the BTCC, not a lot of overtaking, but the races are way longer. It was all about tyres and pit strategy. Erebus were really strong here and they needed a good result because Triple Eight had been closing in over the last few rounds. It was a very clean race until Dave Reynolds went off with 15 laps to go, bringing out the safety car. There was a great fight for second. Chaz Mostert, Cam Waters, Will Brown and SVG all trading paint in the fight for second, a long way behind eventual winner Brody Kostecki. SVG dominated race 2, a very quiet race where Van Gisbergen laid down a challenge to the Erebus cars and his own teammate in the championship. The top 4 remained the same, but the gap between Brody Kostecki in first and Brock Feeney in 4th is just 67 points. This is the closest season for at least 5 years. The Bathurst 1000 is going to be a big decider in the championship this year. The 2023 race on the mountain is going to be a fight to watch. We have the Bend and Sandown first, and they're also very important. 3 races from GB3 this weekend at a dry looking Silverstone. 2 of the Carlins hit each other on lap 1, which was unfortunate, but apart from that, this was a very sensible race with some good battling. Matthew Rees took a dominant win. Race 2 and Mackenzie Cresswell got the jump on Matthew Rees at the start. We had an early safety car for Oliver Stewart with a couple of other early casualties. Not the best race ever, but Mackenzie Cresswell held on for the win. Finally, a very wet race 3. Too wet, you could barely see anything. Reverse grid, so Reese and Cresswell were set to start at the back, but a red flag was brought out to see if the track could be dried. Unfortunately, it could not be, and so the race was cancelled. That means after the 2 races that did go ahead, Callum Voisin is a surprise championship leader despite not winning a race in 2023. Alex Dunn is 1 point behind him, with a few drivers closing in for a tight finish to GB3. I'll talk briefly about S5000 series because not only can I not watch it, I can barely find any information about it. Aaron Cameron won all 3 races in a field of 9 cars, and championship leader Joey Mawson was absent for some reason. So the title race sees Mawson a couple of points ahead of Cameron, but if you can't watch it, it barely matters. The Tasman series has been incorporated into the S5000 series, so that historic and important race series is being completely wasted in S5000. Very disappointing. NASCAR and Chris Buescher took his 3rd NASCAR win at Richmond. The Cockout 400 looked like your standard NASCAR oval race. I don't know what it means for the championship. I hope Shane Van Gisbergen wins it. So that was all the action from the past weekend. Out of these, my favourite race of the weekend was the Formula 3 sprint race. Lots of twists and turns, but both Formula 2 and 3 races were very good. I am on holiday next weekend and will be missing the next round of Super GT, World Rally Championship in Finland, IndyCar and Indy NXT from Nashville, IMSA from Road America, DTM from the Nürburgring, European Rallycross from Belgium, but the World Rallycross has been cancelled. Lack of cars, I presume. But I will be back soon after, so subscribe for more motorsport themed content, leave your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.